Christmas is coming. Have you ever struggled to find the perfect gift for that individual that likes to spend a lot of times outdoors hunting and fishing? Well, my hope is that after this video, you will have some creative and useful gift ideas for that person this year. Hey, I'm Cody with Creation Outdoors. And as we approach Black Friday and the shopping season for Christmas, there's a lot of pressure to find that perfect gift for the individual that you are trying to surprise or impress. And many places like Mountain Ops, for example, already has Black Friday deals going on that you can check out. But I wanted to make this video today, which is a little bit different than a lot of the videos I've made so far, just to introduce a couple of ideas that I think might be interesting and kind of out of the box for that person that likes to spend a lot of time hunting or fishing. Specifically for today though, I'm going to focus on hunting and maybe a little bit more particularly bow hunting, but a lot of these gift ideas are applicable to other individuals that like to spend a lot of time in the outdoors. Fishing would be another example. The first category I want to talk about today is subscriptions. And so these things are a little bit more intangible, but really they can be some of the most useful gifts that you could give someone who likes to spend a lot of time outside. The first thing that I'm going to talk about, and the first gift suggestion, is a subscription to OnX, and specifically OnX Hunt. Now this is a mobile app, but also a web browser, and it's literally something I use every single day. From scouting in the early season to hunting in the fall to even shed hunting or hunting for mushrooms in the spring, this mobile app and web browser provides a map of your state or of all 50 states depending on your purchase level. And what it provides for you is landowner information as well as topographical data on the land that you are on. And so this allows you to not only figure out areas that you can legally access and walk into, but provides information about neighboring landowners that you could potentially ask for hunting permission, or if you have a wounded animal that goes on a neighbor's land, it provides information for that as well. Not only is this a major asset for hunting and spending time outside, but it's also a safety feature that I've come to utilize as well. It provides you with GPS coordinates in your position, and so therefore you can make it safely out of the woods, or your loved one can make it safely out of the woods after enjoying time outside and in creation. You can download maps and use them offline. So if you're in an area where you do not have good reception, this app still works and still functions as it should, and is something that I think that you should check out for that person that likes to spend a lot of time outdoors. The second subscription that I want to talk about today is to a web-based platform called Go Hunt. And so what Go Hunt is, it is a consortium of all of this data that can sometimes be confusing. So let's dig a little bit deeper here. So imagine if you are a Midwesterner or someone who lives in the East and you want to go out west to go elk hunting, for example. Well, as you're looking through the regulations, there's a lot of information there, and every state is different. What Go Hunt does is it takes all of that information from all of these different states for all of their game species and puts them in one place. And not only can you sort through this data in a digestible way on gohunt.com, but you can also put in your points for different states, and it can allow you to strategically apply for tags that give you the most likelihood of successfully drawing that tag. And so I think, especially as I mentioned before, for Midwesterners or people who are out east that like to hunt out west or dabble or would like to eventually hunt out west, gohunt.com is a premier platform that I think would be super advantageous for those individuals, especially if they're just getting started into diving into this western hunting, because these things can be really confusing. Now, Go Hunt has also recently introduced a mapping platform that functions similar to OnX Hunt, and so it could be a 2-for-1 deal for you if you end up buying a subscription to gohunt.com for that person that you know spends a lot of time outside. Okay, now on to some tangible items. And just to preface all of this, I'm going to put the links for all of these things in the description below. Some of these links are affiliate links, which would earn me a tiny percentage of money just to keep this channel going, and others are not. And I'm going to also state that I'm not sponsored by any of the companies that I'm going to be talking about today. And so these are just products that I have utilized and enjoyed through my time outside or inside trying to be a better outdoorsman. So with that said, the first thing I want to talk about is a couple what might be stocking stuffers. First of which is a gear tie. And so essentially what this is it's a rubberized twist tie, and this particular gear tie is made by Night Eyes. And I use these all the time when I'm attaching gear to my pack as I'm walking into public land, but they're also good for, you know, attaching sticks to your harness as you're putting up a tree stand. And just many other uses, and really they're kind of a cheap little thing that would go great in a stocking and has so many uses that they're always good to have around. Along those lines is an adaptation on the same concept, and this is made by Hawk tree stands, and what it is essentially it's the same sort of gear tie, but it has a hook on the bottom. And so this has been really useful for me when I'm going into public land or really tree stand hunting anywhere, because I use this to hang my bow, for example, or my backpack. And especially in many public land areas, you're not allowed to break branches or screw things into the tree. And so something like this that you can hang off of a tree limb to utilize as kind of a gear hang to keep everything organized while you're hunting it is super advantageous. And I think, again, something small and relatively inexpensive that's really quite useful for people, especially if they do a lot of tree stand hunting on public land. Moving on, the next thing I want to recommend is a product called Stealth Strips. And these are something that I have used recently on my tree stand and on several of my metal buckles. And essentially what it is it's a tape-like substance, but it has almost like a camouflage felt on the outside. And I'll put up some pictures here, but the best part about this is that it makes all of these metal things that are necessary for tree stand hunting or hunting from the ground even too, it makes them silent. So you don't get any of those metallic clings in the early morning silence that you feel scares all of the deer away for miles and miles around. And so Stealth Strips are the main company that I think have really done a great job doing this. But the other thing that I've used particularly on my camera arm where I'm doing more of a larger surface area, is camouflage hockey tape. And so there's pros and cons of each of these, but I think that the Stealth Strips are a little bit thicker and do a little better job of silencing all of those metallic sounds. Now, the camouflage hockey tape is more inexpensive, and so like I said, it works well for those larger surface areas. But it does have a little bit of a smell that I think, you know, eventually wears off, but it's something to be conscious of. And again, it doesn't do quite as good of a job of silencing things. Regardless, these two things are another great thing that could go into a stocking or something that's pretty inexpensive that you can add to a gift that, again, has many uses and is a little bit outside of the box for what normally people are imagining for gifts for people who spend a lot of time outdoors and hunting specifically. The next thing that I want to talk about is knives. And so knives are one of those components where once you realize how easy they can be to use, you really never look back. And as the saying goes, a safe knife is a sharp knife, or I think maybe the other way around. A sharp knife is a safe knife. So with that said, something that I've tried out this year is a folding knife with a replaceable blade. And so the one that I'm featuring now is the Gerber Vital series. And I've been really impressed with this knife because, again, you can use this knife and replace the blade when it becomes dull. And so this is really important for breaking down game and things that we do all the time as outdoorsmen and women. And the best part about this knife is that you don't need some sophisticated pliers or prying to get that blade off. There's a simple push button to remove that blade and attach the next blade. And again, it's a very affordable knife. And historically, I've been pretty apprehensive about some of these replaceable blade knives because I thought, maybe all the kinks weren't quite worked out. But now that I've used that for a season, I've been really impressed with how easy it is and how you don't have to spend time sharpening. These disposable blades are razor sharp to begin with and actually last a pretty decent amount of time before you have to change them out. So I suggest looking into these as a potential gift. Now the other gift I want to talk about is this Victorinox knife that I've come to really like. And this is more of a knife that's important for processing game, but you can also use it as a fillet knife, as this one's pretty flexible. Again, this knife is relatively inexpensive, but it does make a big difference to have a knife that's committed to processing game, and especially if you want to begin doing some of this processing at home, because it saves a lot of money, and that way you can cater to your specific wants and desires for the meat. And so the Gerber Vital and this Victorinox knife are both great assets to have both in the field and at home when you're taking care of your game. The next gift idea that I have is a little bit more conventional, but there are a number of great books out there for people who like to spend a lot of time hunting and fishing. And one of my favorite individuals in the hunting industry that's written several books that I think would be a great place to start as gifts for someone who likes to spend a lot of time outside is Steven Rinella. And particularly this book named Meat Eater, after kind of his corporation that he's really started, is a great book for people who do not like to read. This is an easy and short read full of hilarious stories that are really applicable to people who spend a lot of time outside. He grew up in the Midwest. Now he lives out west and has really done so many things outside and is really someone to look up to in the hunting and conservation industry. This is a great book and something that I've actually read multiple times, which is not super common for me. Now, along those same lines of Steven Rinella books is this complete guide to hunting, butchering, and cooking wild game. And so this book comes in 2 volumes. The volume here is big game, but they also make a small game volume. And really this is just chock full of great information regarding species in North America that you can hunt and eat. And not only is it chock full of information, but it also makes a great kind of card table book or just general living room book, because it has a lot of great imagery and photography that's also incorporated, and it's just something that's really neat to just take a gander through, especially if you're having guests over. They would enjoy paging through this book as well. Now, if you have someone that does like to read and kind of thinks more deeply about issues related to conservation and hunting, the book I wanted to recommend is by Mark Kenyon, and it's called That Wild Country. And so this book talks about Mark Kenyon's hilarious misadventures, but also successful stories that he's lived through that take place on public land. And then he utilizes those stories to introduce you to concepts and sort of historical aspects and current issues surrounding those public lands that we as outdoors men and women should really care about, because these are our lands, we own them, and we're able to recreate on them. And if they were taken away, that would severely impact our ability to spend time outside in creation. And so if you would like to dig a little bit deeper into issues surrounding public land, but also would like to pair them with some interesting stories, check out this book by Mark Kenyon. It's a little bit bigger read, but it's worth your time for sure. The next gift idea is specific to bow hunters and archers, and that gift is lighted Nocks. And so these are Nocks that will light when you shoot them or when they're released from your bow, and they're super helpful when you are trying to find your arrow after you have taken a shot at an animal. But also I found that they're really sweet for even target practice, especially around dusk. They're just really neat to look at, and they add a lot of fun to archery when you can really tangibly see that arrow flying through the air. Now, the ones that I've gravitated towards, and the ones that are on my wife's arrow pictured here, are made by Nocturnal. And so there are universal fit ones, but I would generally recommend finding the ones that fit your arrow specifically. So that may take some sneaky investigation on the part of the gift buyer, but these lighted nocks are something that are a little bit more pricey and something that we don't necessarily always want to buy for ourselves, but we really love to have. And so I would suggest picking up a package of these for that individual that likes to spend a lot of time on the archery range or bow hunting for any game species. Okay, now for some bigger ticket items. If you really love someone and want to get them a gift that they would really enjoy and that you can never have too many of, are trail cameras. And so here I have one that's made by Wild Game and one that's made by Stealth Cam. And so these two are great options for a trail cam that's a little bit more affordable. And something that, again, you can never have too many of these if you use them. Whether you're hunting private land or public land, these are great options. And so these are specifically good for public land because then if they get stolen, like unfortunately happens on public land, you're not out a lot of money. And so I've had pretty good success with both of these brands. There's a number of different levels, but regardless, these are a great option. And again, something that you can never have enough of if you like to hunt. The biggest ticket item on my list that I'm going to suggest today is a good set of binoculars. Now, binoculars or glass, whether that's spotting scope, binoculars, a rangefinder, your scope, whatever, and boots are the two things that you really want to have quality items, because these are things that can make or break a hunt. And so stepping into a pretty decent set of binoculars is a good first step for someone who is really getting into hunting or really getting serious about hunting or bird watching or whatever. So the pair that I'm going to recommend today is Vortex Diamondback binoculars. And so these are more of an entry-level binocular, which comes at a great price point for the value. And so there's a number of different magnifications, but I would generally recommend 8 or 10 power for a beginner for a good first set of binoculars. And the other thing I like about Vortex specifically is their VIP warranty. So Vortex is based out of near Madison, Wisconsin. And the cool thing is that if your house burns down and you can find one of these little eyepieces and send it to them, they will send you a brand new pair. If anything ever breaks on these binoculars or any other Vortex product, you can send it in to them and get it fixed no matter what. And so that, I think, is worth the cost of these alone, because these are good for life. These I will be able to pass down to my kids or grandkids someday probably. If anything ever happens, they'll always be fixed, and if they're unfixable, they will be replaced by the comparable item that Vortex offers. And so it's a great company, again, based out of Wisconsin. You can call them and talk to someone who's real on the phone, and they just make these awesome Diamondback binoculars, which are a great set of binoculars for the price point and provide great value for someone who's wanting to step into a little bit more serious glass for their future hunts. Okay, the last thing I'm going to suggest is something that you can wrap all of these gifts in to make something fun for someone to open, and that is a tote. And now you may wonder, a tote, that's pretty boring. And in reality, yeah, it is a little bit boring. However, totes are relatively inexpensive, and they're something that I use all the time. Again, all of my hunting and all of my fishing gear is stored in totes. It's a great way to keep things organized by season or species or activity, and it keeps clutter out of your house or your truck as well. So again, based on the organization fact alone and the fact that these are really inexpensive, there's something that I think are great and useful and kind of creative for someone who likes to spend a lot of time outdoors and has a lot of stuff for that hobby. And so again, something that you could put all of this stuff in and wrap and make so that it's really exciting to open. So again, tote, pretty boring, but also extremely useful around the house, in your truck, in your van, in your car, in your closet, in your garage, whatever. You can never really have too many, and they serve a multitude of purposes and are great to have around. So that is it for the Creation Outdoors Gift Guide 2020. I appreciate you watching this video, which is a little bit different. from all the other videos on our channel, but I really wanted to be helpful because people generally gravitate towards gift cards for people who like to spend a lot of time hunting or fishing or just are a generalist outdoorsman. And now gift cards are really awesome and allows you to buy things that you really want, but there are people who don't like to give gift cards, and this is geared specifically towards them. I tried to pick a list of items. Again, everything's in the description below, but I wanted all these items to be useful and creative and really something that someone could use every single day. So I appreciate you watching, and if you found value out of this, I'd encourage you or ask you to like and subscribe because we got a lot of exciting things coming. One thing actually right over my shoulder for a little bit of foreshadowing coming to the channel really soon. So thanks for watching and have a great day.